So right in front of me, I have two of arguably the best 16-inch gaming laptops you can buy. We're talking fully stacked with RTX 4090s, the Razer Blade 16 and the Lenovo Legion 9i. These are the two 16-inch gaming notebooks if I wanted a proper desktop replacement that I'd be personally looking at. Now they're not cheap, okay? The Razer Blade 16 costs $4,300 US, which comes completely decked out with the RTX 4090, 32 gigabytes of RAM, an i9-13950HX CPU, and a dual display that can switch back and forth between two different resolutions and two different refresh rates. The Lenovo Legion 9i is a little bit less, at $3,700. It too has an RTX 4090, but it does come with a slightly more powerful CPU, an i9-13980HX, a couple of different port variations, and a really funky design. And look, this is expensive. I still personally think for most people, you're better off building yourself a PC and buying something a little bit more affordable to carry around. But I get it. Not everybody wants that. Like some people want a portable desktop replacement. Some people move around a lot in life, and other people require these products for their job. But first, a quick shout out to Best Buy and Western Digital for partnering on this part of the video and for sending out their SanDisk Pro G40 SSD. I've already used it on a couple of work trips to test it out. It has been absolutely awesome, no slowdowns. It's been working very well for the type of content that I edit. The drive is extremely fast with over 3,000 megabytes a second read speeds and around 2,500 megabytes a second write speeds using Thunderbolt 3. If you don't have Thunderbolt on your computer, it obviously supports USB-C 3.2 Gen 2, where you will get speeds of around 1,000 megabytes a second. What really stood out to me is its protection. Like this can withstand 4,000 pounds of resistance. That's pretty much my weight. Joking aside, it's also IP68 water resistant. You can also drop it up to 3 meters because it does have that protection. And there's even a cool aluminum core inside that pulls heat away from the drive itself so that the speeds never slow down. If you're interested in checking it out, I'll place a link in the description down below. Now, the designs of these laptops are a little bit different. The Razer Blade 16 is more of your traditional looking notebook. It's not as deep as the 9i, it's more horizontal, even though they both share 16:10 displays. But the Blade has its own typical look. Like you've seen the Blade look before. It looks identical across the board. It's a black chassis, an aluminum chassis. It feels like a solid brick of aluminum. It overall feels like a very premium product. The Lenovo 9i is a little bit different, like it's deeper, but it has unique pattern on the lid. Personally, I think it looks really cool. It's not too in your face. It doesn't give me this crazy gaming vibe, but it's still very respectable. And I like the fact that they're trying new things compared to other designs that are currently on the market. The Legion logo obviously lights up just as the Blade 16 logo does too. And the weight of these laptops are pretty similar. Like if you buy the Blade 16, it's 5.4 pounds, a little bit lighter than the 5.51 pounds on the Legion 9i. The one thing that I really love is the fact that Lenovo continues to place its ports at the back of the laptop, whereas the Blade 16 tends to put them at the side. I've said this before that it keeps the cables away from you. You don't have to connect the mouse to the left or right and have the cable get in the way of your hand. You can keep it at the back, out of sight. The amount of ports are very similar, but the Lenovo 9i does have an RJ45 port, which the Blade 16 does not. The Blade 16 has also gone with 3 USB-A ports, whereas the Lenovo 9i has only gone with 2, one on the back and then one on the right-hand side. You do get more Thunderbolt ports with the 9i. You have 2 instead of only 1 on the Blade 16, even though there's 3 Type-C ports on it. Only one of them is actually Thunderbolt. But I love the fact that Lenovo includes a second charger in the box. First, I want to show you their main chargers. These are both 330 watt GAN chargers. Like it's pretty small, but you can tell that the Blade 16 is significantly smaller than the charger on the Lenovo Legion 9i. And I understand why Razer Blade wouldn't include a second one. I feel like this is small enough, but there's something to be said about having a 140 watt charger to carry around. Like look how tiny this is compared to the 330 watt charger. Like if you're going to school or if you're going somewhere, you don't have to carry this around. Like this is heavy. Like this is the same weight as some light laptops. Now the displays on both of these laptops are absolutely gorgeous, like really gorgeous, but there's some advantages and disadvantages to both. For one, the Razer Blade has a dual native resolution. So you can switch back and forth by restarting your computer between 3840 by 2400 and 1920 by 1200. If you drop it down to 1920 by 1200, the display can run at 240 Hertz, whereas at 3840 by 2400, the display is stuck at 120 Hertz. Now this is kind of cool because if you're someone who's like a content creator and wants like the text to be a little bit sharper, you can leave it on 4K, you've still got a high refresh rate. When you want a game, you can drop it down to 1920 by 1200. It doesn't look as good, I'll be honest, but at least you get that higher refresh rate and obviously better frame rates to go with it. Now they're both mini LED displays. They both get really bright, but the Lenovo gets significantly brighter. The mini LED panel in this guy is much brighter than the Razer Blade 16. So if you're watching a lot of HDR content or even just SDR stuff, you have the option to be brighter on this laptop. Now, quite frankly, I feel like 4K is overkill on a laptop this size. QHD is more than enough, you know? Like the display on the Lenovo is not quite 4K, it's pretty close, but I feel like both of them could have dropped it down to QHD, gave us maybe like 165 Hertz, and everybody would be happy. Color accuracy is fantastic, so if you're using this for design work, you can trust both of these panels. As for the cameras, they are both 1080p, but you do have Windows Hello facial recognition with the Razer Blade 16. You do not have that with the Legion 9i, but the power button over here also acts as a fingerprint scanner, so you still have Windows Hello login. So this is the Lenovo Legion 9i webcam, 1080p. You guys let me know how the microphone sounds and how the video looks. I'm using regular in-room lighting, no special lighting at all. And now you're looking at the Razer Blade 16, same lighting, right beside the Lenovo Legion 9i in terms of placement. You guys let me know how it looks and how the microphone sounds. Now the keyboard layout is a bit different. Lenovo is using some sort of water cooling system, so it's pushed the keyboard down to make room for that, and you have all these perforated holes to allow air to pass through. But here's the thing. I've never been the biggest fan of Razer Blade's keyboards. I've always felt they were a bit too flat for a gaming computer. Like if I was just doing general productivity, fine, not a big deal. But for like gaming, they don't feel like a proper gaming keyboard. The RGB on it looks fantastic. Like Razer has always done a good job with that. And because the keys are black, that light does shine through. The touchpad is also significantly bigger on the Razer Blade. There's just a lot of room to move your fingers around, and just like simple touching it and moving the mouse feels great. But the only problem, and this goes for all Razer Blades, is that the clicking distance is quite shallow. It's like the touchpad wants to be a haptic touchpad, but doesn't have the haptic motor to support it. The Legion 9i, on the other hand, is different. The keys themselves feel nice and clicky. They have that U-shaped key where my fingers rest, and it just feels good to type on. You do have a full-size numeric keypad for those that actually want it, and you do have the space to support it. The only downfall, though, is wrist placement. Because it's pushed towards you now, your wrists, don't have that much space to rest. Plus, on top of this, the touchpad is quite small. The width of it is fine, it's just that it's not tall enough. And let's be honest, it's fine for normal everyday stuff, but if you're relying on the touchpad every single day, you'd probably want something bigger, but you're probably gaming on this, so you're connecting an external mouse. Besides that, they both have the ability to quickly switch between performance profiles, function P on the Razer Blade 16 when it's plugged in, and function Q on the Lenovo Legion 9i. Sticker placement, I'm giving it to the Razer Blade 16. There's obviously less. The sticker guy is getting paid way too much, probably on acid again, and he just puts stickers everywhere. I should also talk about fingerprints. Like this Razer Blade, it has an anti-fingerprint resistant coating, but it still gets fingerprints. Look over here. I actually just cleaned this off. I was using this laptop quite a lot over the past 6 months, and it got really, really dirty. So you're gonna have to do a couple of wipe downs every once in a while. The 9i is a little bit different. You have that protective top where you don't see the fingerprints, but as soon as you open it up and touch over here, that's where the fingerprints accumulate. The material they're using is very similar to the keyboard deck on the Dell XPS 15. It has that rubberized texture, so it will pick up fingerprints quite well. Now, one area where Lenovo kind of cheaped out on was the speakers. There's only two 2-watt speakers on the bottom of the laptop, and obviously they don't sound as good as the 4 speakers that are upwards firing on the Razer Blade 16. Also, a nice little touch is that Lenovo included some keycaps that you can replace the WSASD key with if you want to change up the colors. Comes with a little tool over here so that you can remove the keycaps and work on it yourself. I mean, they're nice. They have this like glossy texture. I don't know if I'd use them for gaming, but if you want to give your laptop a different look, at least you have the ability to do that. Now, performance is where things get interesting because they both excel in their own little ways. They're both using RTX 4090s that get up to 175 watts, but the CPU choices are slightly different. You have a more powerful i9-13980HX in the Legion 9i compared to the 13950HX in the Razer Blade 16. Now, generally, this doesn't make that much of a difference. Honestly, it's really not a big deal, but I did find in most applications, like if you're buying this to do work on, that the Legion 9i did perform faster. It doesn't matter if it was Adobe After Effects, it performed better on the 9i. If it was Adobe Premiere Pro, it performed a little faster on the 9i. And same holds true if you're developing code. It's not a massive difference to the point where it's like, oh my God, I gotta get this instead, but it is noticeable. Now, the one area that the Blade 16 performed better than the 9i was gaming. I think Razer tends to nerf the performance of the CPU to favor the GPU, whereas Lenovo gives it a bit more balance, but a little bit more power to the CPU. That's why we're getting these conflicting results. But look, I mean, they both can game wonderfully at 1920 by 1200. It doesn't matter what game you're playing, both of these laptops will be able to handle it. At QHD, I did find the Razer Blade 16 did perform slightly better at 2560 by 1600. Not by a lot, but it was enough to make an impactful difference in the games you're playing. Now, at their native resolution, which is not quite 4K, but pretty darn close, 3200 by 1200 for the 9i and 3840 by 2400 for the Razer Blade 16, the 9i obviously performed a little bit better just because it's not pushing as many pixels. Also, if you're playing Allan Wake 2 like I am, you're definitely gonna have to drop the settings on these laptops. Even with an RTX 4090, that game just brings it to its knees. My suggestion is turn on DLSS. It makes a big difference in this game, and it really determines how many FPS you're gonna get, whether you have it on or off. Just a suggestion, but you can play it on these laptops. Fan noise is a little bit different. At max fan noise, when everything is under full load on performance mode, the Lenovo Legion 9i is slightly quieter at 57 decibels compared to 59, but as soon as you switch it to automatic on the 9i and balanced on the Razer Blade 16, the fan noise drops down to 43 versus 53. Now, granted, the Blade 16 is really nerfing performance on balance mode to keep the fan noise down, whereas the Lenovo Legion 9i is not, but if you drop it to the quiet profile, it will match the Blade 16. As for heat management, they were pretty equal, like 88, 89 on the Blade 16, 91, 92 on the 9i, which is very weird considering this is supposed to be using water cooling. But the benefit of running a few degrees higher is you do get higher core clock speeds. Overall CPU performance sustained higher on the 9i compared to the Blade 16. Now, getting inside both of these laptops are quite easy. However, I have stripped the screws on the Razer Blade 16 and I don't want to go through that painful process again, but you have two swappable drives, swappable RAM up to 64 gigabytes, and a swappable Wi-Fi 6E card. Now, the inside of the 9i looks a bit more interesting. It is two using a very unique setup with two big fans. You have a third one over here. There's a water cooling solution underneath the back over here, but I don't see a place for a radiator. Like whenever you're using water cooling, that's generally what's connected to it. And I don't see a spot for that, which kind of makes me think like if it's actually doing anything. Now, the unfortunate part is the RAM access. You have to flip the motherboard in order to get to it. They are upgradable, it just requires more work to get there. The battery sizes, 99 watt hours on the 9i compared to 95, but battery life on both of these laptops are absolutely terrible. Now, the big question, do you go for the Blade 16 or the 9i? And the answer is obvious. You go for the 9i. Like, there is no world where the Blade 16 is worth $600 more. There's just not $600 more of value in this guy. Now, if they're both the exact same price, then you can kind of compare them. You can say, okay, maybe I like the Blade 16 because it has 4 speakers instead of 2. Maybe I just like the look better. You know, the performance is quite similar, but it's not $600 better. That's just insanity. I think Razer has a major pricing problem. Their products are great, but it's not significantly better than what the competition is putting out, especially when the difference is $600. The answer's simple. If you're looking at these products, go for the 9i, save yourself the money, get the same experience, along with a lot of other great features that this laptop has to offer. But again, I will reiterate this. The best option is still to build a tiny little gaming PC, which you can upgrade as the years go by and carry something portable. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section down below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.